Hi, I'm Deb Moffat Hall, and I'd like to introduce you to Patterns to Bead. I had covered a number of different seed bead related items on my website. If you're a jewelry lover, we have bracelets and earrings and necklaces. You can order just the pattern if you have a stash of beads you want to use of your own. Or if you would like to make your samples exactly like what you see on my website or here, I also offer kits. The kits are totally complete. They even come with needle and thread, high quality seed beads, crystals, and assorted interesting little pearls and such. They come with a clasp, so you can grab and go if you're heading out the door. Pick up the envelope and you know you have everything you need except scissors. I also offer Ornament of the Month clubs that are birthstone themed. These are very popular in that they're a quicker gift item. It takes maybe an evening or two to count and stitch. Everything is complete in the kit. You even get a stand and the ball. It's a monthly kit you can join for the entire year, or if you want to purchase single items, you can purchase the previous year's items in single kits or patterns. If you really fall in love with this year's series, you have to wait until Black Friday to be able to purchase them as patterns only. Another aspect of Patterns to Bead is I teach. I love to teach at bead guilds, or if folks can get 6 or 8 friends together around the dining room table, a little wine, a little beading, and we have a great time. But I had found over the years that folks had trouble starting one of my favorite stitches, the peyote stitch. Peyote can be used to make these graft ornaments or pictorial panels, much like following a cross-stitch chart. You simply pick up the colors that you need following along on the chart. The nice thing about peyote, though, is you start with one needle, one thread at this corner, and when you get down to the point, you're still only one needle, one thread. You tie it off in the beadwork, and it's done. There's no more finishing to it. It's just as pretty on the back as it is on the front. The problem with peyote is the first 3 rows scare people off. The way they write it up in the magazines is to alternately string rows 1 and 2 on your thread, and then hold all those beads in your hand, and then try to add row 3 one at a time to every other bead. They fall off the other end, you lose track, and then to make things worse, if you do manage to stitch row 3 onto the first 2 rows, row 3 and row 1 can rotate out of color order. So you're stitching along, you think you've got it made, and then you realize that colors have alternated their positions on you. Beading is supposed to be fun, not frustrating. And after seeing my students struggle, even though we had lots of hints and tips and tricks and the wire, the needle, lay them out, I figured there had to be something better. So my husband and I put our heads together and came up with a number of ideas that were entirely too expensive to produce. So we simplified and simplified and simplified. And 2 years later, we came up with the Quick Start Peyote card. Now, it looks like a little piece of paper, but what's inside is a laminate of plastic. You have paper on the outside, plastic in the middle. We tried doing just plastic, but when they laser cut it, it smelled like someone had dropped something in the bottom of the dishwasher and the plastic knife had burned. So putting paper on the outside allowed us to do some printing on it while keeping the card very durable. It's not a one-shot deal. You can reuse this card over and over again. They come in all the sizes of the average beads, from the little bitty size 15s up to the size 6 seed beads. So we've made things easier to start, easier to follow along. Every pattern is extremely step by step. I literally sit there with a camera, and each step that I do on a project, I take a picture, do the next step, take a picture. So it's like having me next to you while you're trying to stitch. And on every pattern is my email. If you have the littlest question, I welcome you to email me. It helps me to know where the questions are so I can make the patterns better. I want you to have fun, and I will help you every step of the way. Thank you very much. PatternsToBead.com. Hi, I'm Deb Moffat Hall from Patterns to Bead, and I'm here to demonstrate the Quick Start Peyote tool. Now, Quick Start Peyote has become a little misnomer because it also starts additional bead stitches that I'll show you later on. For now, we're going to start with the basic peyote, flat peyote stitch, even count in size 11 beads. I'm using size 11 cylinder beads in my tray. This is the size 11 card. It says it on the front. And to prepare the card for use, you simply fold it, match the rounded corners, give it a slight crease, and you're ready to go. The first thing you need to do is position your thread with a stop bead. To make a stop bead, you simply go through the bead 2 times in the same direction, leaving a small tail. As you can see, it places a loop of thread on the outside of the bead. Give a little check, make sure that bead will slide up and down on your thread, and you know you've got it right. Your card looks like a little tent. To position your thread to stitch, you come in from the inside the tent through one of these small side holes, doesn't matter which one. Draw it up to catch your stop bead on the back. Then there's another small hole right on the fold. Pass your needle down that small hole and up through the first large bead slot. Once you draw your thread through and your stop bead is trapped, from here on, keep the card folded. If you peek and open the card up, your beads will fall through, so you don't want to do that. To follow your chart, you pick up your beads one at a time. Now you'll go into the first large bead slot and pass under the fold of the card to exit the second bead slot. If you notice, the bottom of the card has a little notch cut out. This helps you angle your thread, your needle, as you pass under the next notch and exit. When you draw your thread through, give it a good tug and that bead will settle into that notch perfectly. Now I'm going to add just a couple more beads to complete my first row of peyote stitch. I'm using Fireline in 4-pound test because I prefer it as you can't split the thread as you go back and forth through the beads. That's complete your first row. Now to start your second row, it's a very simple matter of turning the card over. Since I like to stitch from right to left, now I can continue to do so. You pick up the second row of beads. Now this time, instead of passing back through the card, I'm going to pass back through that last bead I added. Draw my thread through, and as you notice, what the card does here is it acts as a row underneath, causing the beads to form the classic up and down format of peyote stitch. I'll finish this row. Passing back through the beads. Now you might be wondering, okay, I've got it on the card. How do I get it off without destroying the card? Good question. Very easy to answer. But first you need to complete 4 rows. That's the minimum. 4 rows of beading before you even think about taking it off. If you take it off earlier, your beadwork can rotate or it can come apart. So we're just going to stitch up this 3rd row. If you notice, this time I'm just passing back through by holding the card vertically. If you don't want to flip it over, that's another option. So when I'm stitching this way, I hold the card horizontal, and when I'm doing the return row, I can hold it vertical. It's just personal preference, which you do. Now this is the 4th row, and I'll pass through the last blue bead that I added in the 3rd row. So just that fast, we've up and stitching with our peyote starter card. Alrighty, I've completed the 4th and final row before I can take something off. Now, this card looks like paper, but it's very durable. It's got a laminate of plastic in the center. So in order to use it over and over again, we simply open it up. You're going to place your needle in your stop bead and draw it off. That's why you wanted to make sure that it would come free earlier. Now if you look at your card, you'll see that there's a little line of thread that crosses the bridge here. Simply unstitch by placing your needle under that loop of thread and drawing it through. Don't worry, your beads will not come undone and your card will not be damaged. And watch, they just come free. And that completes your starter for the flat peyote and the even count. The card is not damaged. You can put it away, use it over and over again. Sometimes you need to start a project that's larger than the number of beads across here. Now this size 11 will handle up to 32 beads wide. But if you need to make a larger project, it's a simple matter of cutting the shoulders off of 2 cards. Now you can see that the points are facing down, and I've cut the shoulders off of opposite sides. And by shoulders, I just mean the little fold. I do this so that I can overlap the 2 cards, line up the first bead hole. When I fold it, you can see I have twice the stitching area. A little piece of tape, and I'm ready to stitch. You can continue to add cards to achieve the width that you need for your particular project. The cards are still usable for smaller projects. Simply untape them and stitch from this side. Other stitches are possible to start on the cards as well. Now I'm going to use the size 11 card again to show you how to start herringbone stitch. Once again, we add a stop bead by passing through the bead 2 times in the same direction. Come from inside the tent, up the little hole, down the little hole on the fold, and out the first big bead slot. Hold your card folded, but this time rather than adding 1 bead, I'm going to pick up 2. I'm going to pass under the fold on the bead card again, and when I draw the thread through, I'm going to give the beads a little nudge so that they're a little loose on the card here. We will get the classic format later. As you can see, they don't fit into the slot quite right. I'll do this 2 more times with the double beads on my thread. Okay, here's where the herringbone shape comes into effect. I'm going to pass up the second bead of the group to position my needle for the next pass. You see how it splits the beads and they open up? Now I'll pick up 2 beads. I'll use a different color so you can see more easily. And I'm going to go down the first of that pair and then up the second bead in the second pair. And now you can see how the beads are forming that open V formation of the herringbone stitch. It becomes even more apparent after we add rows 3 and 4. Down and up. And once more. This time we only have to go down to finish that row. Now to position our thread for the next row, we have two choices. It exits the bottom of this bead here. Now we could follow a convoluted path through the beadwork to come up and exit here. Personally, I don't mind if a little bit of thread shows on the side, so I am going to exit up through the last bead I just added. Give everything a nice little tug, and you're ready to start row 3. Once again, you go, I'm going to turn it over, it's easier to follow that way. You go down and then up. You can see the herringbone pattern building. After that, you just continue as before, and taking it off is the same matter of opening the card, removing the stop bead, and unpicking the stitches if that fall across the card. Whoops. So that's herringbone using the starter cards. Okay, and it would continue to build. Now another use for the cards is with 2-drop peyote. 2-drop just means you add 2 beads at a time, much like we did with the herringbone. But you need to use a larger card if you're going to be adding 2 beads at a time. So I have found that the size 11 beads fit nicely on the size 8 cylinder card. You can see that it has it written here. Once again, to prepare the card, we simply fold it, match the rounded corners, give it a slight crease. And working from the side that has the arrows, we're going to add our stop bead. We go out, we go in, and out the first big bead slot. Hold it folded. Now you'll see that 2 size 11s, cedar cylinder, fit quite nice within this bead slot. See? They tuck right in. So the nice thing about 2-drop peyote is it goes twice as fast. This pattern, this ornament was stitched with 2-drop. If you look closely, you'll see that the beads are arranged in pairs. So you get just as nice of effect when the finished beadwork, and as I said, it goes twice as fast. Okay, so we've got 2 sets of 2. Turning is the same thing. Flip it over. Now remember to go back through both beads this time when you're doing 2-drop peyote, because you're actually treating those 2 beads as if they were 1 bead. And you see they line up quite nicely for you. Sometimes a peyote project will have an odd number of beads, and this requires a different kind of turn at the end of one set of rows. I'll show you how to do an odd count turn using these larger beads. It's a little easier to see. You begin as usual, position your thread, and start stitching the beads to the card. Now, in an odd count, I don't place a bead here. What I will do is go back through that last bead that I added without adding a bead, and now I'm in position to add my next row. The turn at this end is exactly the same as a normal, regular, even count peyote. Turn it over and stitch back through. Now, when it gets a little wonky is when you get to this stage. Okay, normally you would just pass through this bead and exit, but you need a way to anchor this third row bead on the end. So what you do is you pass down through two beads at an angle. All right. Draw your thread through. Okay. Now you add the bead that needs to go here onto your thread, but you're going to pass down at an angle through these two beads and exit. Okay, so I'm down at the bottom here. I don't need to be there. I need to be exiting this bead. So in order to get back to the place I need my thread to be, I'm going to complete the figure 8 by going down 3 beads this time, exiting. Now I'm free to pass back through this top left-hand bead, the last one that I added for row 3, and I'm ready to continue stitching. So you make a little figure 8 in order to get your beads lined up and secure. See? It all fits together. So then on back pass, I'll show you that one more time, because it is a little different, a little tricky. You're going to go down 2 beads. Now pick up the bead that you want to add, go back, down diagonally through 2 beads, draw your thread through. Now we're going to finish the figure 8 by going down 3 beads on an angle. And back through the last one you added. And that's all there is to odd count. Thank you very much. If you're interested in the Quick Start Peyote cards, as I said, they come in all the different bead sizes. Now the size 15 card will handle both delica and cylinder, cylinder and seed bead. The size 11 card will also handle both cylinder and seed bead, but when you get into the larger beads, we needed to make a separate card for each. The seed beads, 8 size seed beads, has their own card, and the cylinder size 8 has double duty because you can also use it for size 6 seed beads, so you get a twofer on that one. There's also a combination pack that'll give you a few of everything. 2 of the 11s, 2 of the 15s, and 1/8 of the 8 seed and cylinder. Thank you. They're available at patternstobead.com. And again, I'm Deb Moffett Hall. Thank you very much.